Hi everybody, happy Easter, or as we said in my Russian program, Счастливая Пасха. I have a fun little project for you today. I wanted to recreate sort of the feel of egg dyeing in all of its messy wonderment. And so I thought I would do a little emboss resist with this adorable bunny. So I'm just going to do, you guys know this part, I'm just going to ink up my bunny stamp in Versamark. The name of this stamp, by the way, is Happy Easter Bunny because he is very happy. He's dancing like Snoopy. And then I'm going to use my embossing buddy to prep a piece of watercolor paper. This is cold press watercolor paper from Stampin' Up. And I'm just going to stamp the little bunny in Versamark. You won't be able to see this at first. It's like magic. And then I'm going to take my embossing powder in my awesome little container with the spoon on the lid. I will provide you a link to the blog post where I talk about these and how much space they saved me. This is an idea from Jennifer McGuire, the queen of organization and all things crafty. And I'm just going to make sure that I have embossing powder all over this image. I like to hold my cardstock vertically over the container. I find that I get less stray embossing powder that way than if you just dump a huge pile onto your cardstock. It always gives me the hives when somebody puts a whole container of embossing powder onto their card. But to each his own. Now I'm just going to heat this up with my heat gun. You really want to make sure, especially if you're doing a resist technique, that you get every little bit of embossing powder melted. You don't want to have part of your design wear away when you go to paint on it. So I'm just checking this to make sure I got it all. And I did. It's all beautiful and shiny. So I'm going to spray this with water. And what you don't want to do is spray it into your container of embossing powder, because I don't know if you could ever really recover from that. So I want to make sure I put the lid on. Then I'm just going to take a little mister. This is my Stampin' Up mister. And I'm going to get the watercolor paper pretty saturated. I want this pretty wet because I want the ink to move around on its own and look very abstract. So what I'm doing is I'm just touching a little bit of re-inker on my brush to the pools of water on the watercolor paper. And I'm doing this all around the main bunny image because I want to define the outline of the bunny with a little bit of blue. And you'll see why I wanted that to be all blue a little later on as the design starts to come together. But touching these little pools of water with re-inker is so much fun. This is really one of my favorite ways to watercolor. And I'm using what I consider to be my standard color combo here in the beginning. That is Tempting Turquoise, re-inker, Melon Mambo, and Daffodil Delight. Just pure primaries because they react with each other in fun ways. And I'm going to get this great tie-dyed look by using these three colors together. And I'll also get a green when the yellow meets the blue. And I'll get a nice purple from the red and the blue. And then I'll get a beautiful orange that you can start to see here when the Melon Mambo and Daffodil Delight come together. Now as I move around, I'm having to add a little bit of water because the watercolor paper has dried just a tad. And I'm filling in the bunny in kind of a pastel combination of yellow and Melon Mambo, and adding a little bit more blue so that he starts to sort of pop out of my design. And I'm really doing this just randomly. I don't have a plan. I'm dabbing off a little extra water as I need to add more color. And I just like to let the re-inker go where it wants to go, basically, to give it kind of a natural tie-dye look. I'm not really thinking a whole lot about what I'm doing here. Now I'm using one of those little medical washcloths that I like. These things last forever. And I love that they have no lint, which, you know, as a pet owner, that's really saying something. But they're really great for doing watercolor, and actually they become quite beautiful when you're done with a project. So now I'm bringing out the definition of the bunny just a little bit more with some pure re-inker. And as you do this technique, you'll notice as you pick up, especially if you're just using water with your re-inkers and you're not using them just with a paintbrush dry, you'll notice that the pigment that's on my acrylic block does get watered down over time, and your colors will be lighter and lighter as you progress through a project. So every now and then, if I'm doing kind of a bigger project like this, I'll actually just add a few more drops of re-inker just so that I can go back to getting kind of more saturated color. Now I'm blotting the bunny, just getting a little extra water off, and then I'm just inspecting it to see where I need a little bit more color. And to make the color really pop out, I'm going to go ahead and dry this with my heat gun on both sides, and this will let me get more saturated color where I need it, because you can see I still don't have enough definition yet. And I want everybody to be able to see this joyful little bunny. So now I'm taking some Pacific Point ink, and I'm actually just going to deepen the blue around the bunny, and this is really going to make him set off just a little bit from this fun pastel background. So I'll speed this up as I go through it. I don't really worry about the color choice. I'm really just looking for a darker blue. So Pacific Point was perfect, even though it has a little bit more green in it than my turquoise does. It blends beautifully with that turquoise re-inker. And now you can really see the bunny is starting to be the star of the show, as he should be. Look at that sass. And then I'm going to add a couple other darker colors as well to deepen the re-inker. I'm using rose red to deepen a couple of the melon mambo areas. And again, I want that cute detail of the stamp, like his little teeth up at the top, and then his belly and the bow around his neck, just to stand out a little bit more. Then I'm going to take some Hello Honey, and that's how I'm going to deepen the Daffodil Delight. He looks like, do y'all remember those lollipops that were kind of ombre, red and yellow? This is the color scheme that this little guy has. Those things were delicious. They were like extra sour lollipops. It's just giving me a flashback to my childhood thinking about that. My little bunny looks like a sucker. So now the little intricate portions of the letters needed a little attention, as do the vines with the flowers and the leaves that form kind of an oval egg-shaped frame for the bunny. And so I'm just going in and adding more saturated color to those. There are also little eggs on those vines, which are adorable. And I'm choosing just different colors, just kind of going with whatever the background around them is to get those a little bit deeper. And this is just, again, very quick and without a lot of thought. And then all I have to do when I'm done with my bunny is cut out an oval frame to go around him and put him on some watercolor paper, and you can see him in all of his glorious Easter detail. Have a great weekend. Thanks for watching.